everyone. Welcome to my podcast, Love and Courageous. I'm the host, Demetris. And for today's episode, I'll be speaking about Donald Trump, the re-elected president, who said that he wants to expand America to Canada, Greenland, and Panama Canal. On January the 7th of this year, Donald Trump threatened economic force to annex. He says he wants to expand America to the north and talks about buying Greenland and controlling the Panama Canal. So here are a few things that he said, and I'm quoting it, by the way. When it comes to obtaining Greenland from Denmark, he said they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. When it comes to reclaiming the Panama Canal from Panama, he said, we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China, and they abused it. He also mentioned about turning Canada into the 51st state of America and pushing hockey great Wayne Gretzky as a candidate for governor. He also mentioned renaming the Gulf of Mexico. He said, I quote, we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name. Now, when it comes to Denmark, this is not the first time America has tried to purchase land from Denmark. Back in 1917, the U.S. obtained the U.S. Virgin Islands from the Kingdom of Denmark for $25 million in golden coin, but only after decades of attempts to acquire them. Now today, the U.S. Virgin Islands are 1 out of 5 U.S. territories, including the largest and most popular one, Puerto Rico. Now, people that are born in America territories, they are U.S. citizens. But even though they are U.S. citizens, they can only get token representation in Congress, and they can only vote in presidential elections if they move to a U.S. state. Now, when it comes to annexation, America has a history of annex. The union between America and Canada goes centuries back, when early American leaders invaded Quebec during the American Revolution. Decades later, the U.S. unsuccessfully invaded Canada during the War of 1812, amid frustration over the Royal Navy's moves to bring American soldiers into their own ships. Annexation and invasion fears continue through the American Civil War and amid the U.S. push for expansion and the manifest destiny. But those fears ended as the two nations shifted to become fierce allies in the 20th century. NORAD and also NATO was formed. Canadians fought with Americans in World War I and World War II, and in Korea and the Gulf of War. Canada and America have been military and economic partners for more than a century. But with Trump wanting to expand to Canada, it's hard to know where does America and Canada stand within the next 4 years. Now, some people are taking Donald Trump as a joke. Canadian Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, who attended a dinner at Mar-a-Lago, told the Associated Press that the remarks were clearly in jest. And Gerald Butts, a former top advisor to Trudeau, wrote in a post on LinkedIn that Trump had dropped the 51st state line a lot with the Prime Minister during his first term. He's doing it to rattle Canadian cages. When someone is trying to get you to freak out, don't. Trudeau also said after the press conference, I quote, there isn't a snowball chance in hell that Canada will become part of the United States. Workers and communities in both our countries benefit from being each other's biggest trading and security partner. Now, that's all the information that I have, but I know that some people do take it as a joke. I personally don't because, one, the fact that he said that he wants to expand, and a reporter did ask him, will you not use military force? And Donald Trump was like, well, I can't promise anything. And I was just like, I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. It's Donald Trump. Like, Donald Trump is all about violence. He's a very hateful, racist, disrespectful person. So, I mean, me personally, I really wouldn't be surprised about it because he's a violent person. Now, however, some people say he said things before that he didn't do, like build the wall. Well, that costs money, so I'm not trying to be funny. Like, I'm actually not surprised that he didn't do that, but mass deportation, he actually did that. So it's like, for me, it really wouldn't surprise me if he was to even try and do that, because Donald Trump wants to be a dictator, and like I said, he's all about violence, and he always tried to like put force on people. Like, he always trying to force people to do stuff. So yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised about it, but the thing is, this is that would lead up to a war. Now, however, when it comes to the other wars that's going on, like the Hamas war and everything, well, we already know he's not going to do anything about that, or Ukraine. So when it comes to ending the war, he's not going to do nothing, about it. But like creating one, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. He used military force against protesters in this country. So, I mean, anything is possible with him. But also, I feel like people need to educate themselves on the true history of America. One thing is that this is colonization. White people literally raped and killed the indigenous women and their children and forced them off their own land. That is the history of America. And you know why they did it? For power. For white privilege, because that's literally what white people want. White people literally want to be dominant. And to be dominant, they make others feel inferior. And so, if you know the true history of America, white people expanding and taking other parts of Native Americans' land still, they were still killing them, they were still raping them just to gain more control. So the fact that we have a dictator in office coming tomorrow, and he talking about expanding, it does not surprise me, considering the fact that that's what white people always done in this country. Now that is all for today, and I will get into the Black History Fact. The Black History Fact will be about Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer was an American voting and women's rights activist, community organizer, and a leader in the civil rights movement. Fannie Lou Hamer was born on October 6 of 1917 in Montgomery County of Mississippi. She grew up in poverty, and at the age of 6, she joined her family picking cotton. By the age of 12, she left school to work. In 1944, she married Perry Hamer, and the couple toiled on the Mississippi plantation owned by W.D. Marlowe until 1962. And because she was the only worker who could read and write, she served as a plantation timekeeper. In 1961, Fannie Lou Hamer received a hysterectomy by a white doctor without her consent, while undergoing surgery to remove a uterine tumor. Such forced sterilization of black women was a way to reduce the black population. It was so widespread it was called Mississippi appendectomy. Unable to have children of their own, Fannie Lou Hamer adopted 2 girls. That summer, she attended a meeting led by civil rights activist James Foreman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and James Bevel, of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, also known as SCLC. Angry by efforts to deny blacks the rights to vote, she became a SNCC, also known as Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, organizer, and on August 31st of 1962, led 17 volunteers to register to vote at the Indianola, Mississippi courthouse, denied the right to vote due to an unfair literacy test. The group was harassed on their way home when police stopped their bus and fined them $100 for the trump-up charge that the bus was too yellow. That night, Marlowe fired her for her attempt to vote. Her husband was required to stay until the harvest. Marlowe took much of their property as well, and they had to move to Ruralville, Mississippi, in Sunflower County. In June of 1963, after successfully completing a voter registration program in Charleston of South Carolina, Fannie Lou Hamer and other black women were arrested for sitting in a whites-only bus station restaurant in Winona, Mississippi. At the Winona jailhouse, she and the other women were brutally beaten, leaving Fannie Lou Hamer with injuries from a blood clot in her eye, kidney damage, and leg damage. In 1964, Fannie Lou Hamer's national reputation soared as she co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, also known as MFDP, which challenged the local Democratic Party effort to block black participation. Hamer and other MFDP members went to the Democratic National Convention the same year, arguing to be recognized as the official delegation. When Hamer spoke before the Credentials Committee, calling for mandatory integrated state delegations, President Lyndon Johnson held a televised press conference so she would not get any television airtime, but her speech was later televised due to the touching descriptions of racial prejudice in the South. By 1968, her vision for racial parity and delegations had become a reality. And Hamer was a member of Mississippi's first integrated delegation. In 1964, she helped organize Freedom Summer, which brought hundreds of college students, black and white, to help with black people's voter registration in the segregated South. She announced her candidacy for the Mississippi House of Representatives, but was barred from the ballot. A year later, Hamer, Victoria Gray, and Annie Devine became the first black women to stand in the U.S. Congress when they unsuccessfully protested the Mississippi House election of 1964. She also traveled, giving powerful speeches on behalf of civil rights. In 1971, she helped to found the National Women's Political Caucus. Frustrated by the political process, Hamer turned to economics as a strategy for greater racial equality. In 1968, she began a pig bank to provide free pigs for black farmers to breed, raise, and slaughter. A year later, she launched the Freedom Farm Cooperative, also known as FFC, buying up land that blacks could own and farm collectively. With the assistance of farmers, she purchased 640 acres and launched a coupe store, boutique, and sewing enterprise. She single-handedly ensured that 200 units of low-income housing were built. Many still exist in Ruralville today. The FFC lasted until the mid-1970s. It was among the largest employers in Sunflower County. Extensive travel and fundraising took Hammer away from the day-to-day operations, as did her failing health, and the FLC hobbled along until folding. In 1977, she passed away at the age of 59 due to breast cancer. And 48 years later, after her passing, President Joe Biden awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, to Fannie Lou Hammer. That is all for today. Thank you everyone for listening to my podcast, and I hope y'all have a lovely day.